The cage-eaten stone woke up to a cold floor beneath his back. His head throbbed and his arms were heavy. Chained to the wall, the room was dark, made of smooth silver walls that hummed quietly. He blinked a few times, trying to remember what had happened. Last thing he remembered, he was in space, aboard his ship, chasing a distress signal. Then, nothing. He tried to sit up, but the chains held him back. His body hurt, but his mind was still sharp. "Great," he muttered. "Either I'm dead or aliens finally got bored of probing cows." Aiden heard a soft click, like a door opening. He looked up and froze. She entered the room like a shadow wrapped in armor. 8 feet tall, glowing purple eyes, long silver hair falling past her shoulders. Her skin shimmered like obsidian under the light, and her face showed no fear, only curiosity. She stopped a few feet from him and tilted her head. Then she smiled. Or maybe smirked. It was hard to tell. With a deep, calm voice, she said, "You're not big enough for my species." Aiden raised an eyebrow. "Well, you're not exactly small talk friendly." The alien queen didn't laugh, but her eyes sparkled a little. She turned and walked away without another word. The door closed behind her, leaving Aiden in silence again. "What the hell does that mean?" he whispered, tugging at the chains. He had fought pirates, escaped explosions, survived alien storms, but this, being chained in front of an 8-foot-tall alien who talked like she was shopping for a pet, this was new. Hours passed, maybe more. Time felt strange in this place. He got food through a small slot in the wall, tasteless blocks of something soft, but it kept him alive. The next day, or what felt like it, the door opened again. 2 aliens walked in, both wearing silver armor. They unlocked his chains and pulled him to his feet. Aiden didn't resist, not yet. He needed to understand where he was and why. They dragged him through long hallways filled with glowing lights and strange symbols. He saw other aliens, tall like the queen, watching him with cold eyes. They brought him into a large open space, a training ground, weapons on racks, targets, obstacle courses, machines he didn't recognize. Then she returned, Queen Valera, standing tall on a platform above. "This is your test," she said. "Show us what humans are made of." Before Aiden could answer, one of the guards pushed him toward a machine. It started moving fast, lasers, spinning blades, electric shocks. It was a survival course, and they wanted to see if he would fail. He didn't. He ran, ducked, rolled, screamed, jumped, fell, got up again. Pain hit him like fire, but he didn't quit. By the end, he collapsed, gasping, smoke rising from his clothes. Valera walked down slowly, standing over him. "You are not strong, not fast, not tall," she said, "but you did not stop." He looked up and smiled through the pain. "Welcome to humanity." She stared at him for a moment, then nodded. "Take him back to his cell," she ordered. The guards lifted him again and dragged him away. Back in the cold room, Aiden lay on the floor, heart pounding. His muscles burned, but something inside him felt alive. They thought this was just a test, but he knew this was something more. Late that night, the wall in his cell lit up. A hidden panel opened, showing holograms floating in the air. Images of him, eating, walking, sleeping, fighting. Recordings of his time on Earth, even before the war. Someone had been watching him for a long time. His heart dropped. This wasn't random. He was chosen, but for what? And why did that alien queen say he wasn't big enough? What did she want from him? Respect? A fight? A mate? He didn't know yet, but one thing was clear. This was just the beginning. And Aiden Stone was not going down without answers. The test. Aiden didn't sleep that night. He lay on the cold floor, staring at the glowing images on the wall, pictures of his life, his past missions, his family, even his childhood. Someone had studied him, not just recently, for years. Why? Why him? The next morning, the door opened again, but something was different. This time, the guards didn't pull him by the arms. They simply waited, their eyes locked on him. Aiden stood slowly, sore from yesterday's trial, but stronger in spirit. He followed them without a word. They took him through new hallways, darker, quieter. The walls were covered with alien symbols, glowing softly. He could hear the hum of machines behind the walls, and sometimes whispers, like voices speaking the language he didn't understand. Then the door opened into a round chamber. In the center, Queen Valera stood beside a floating table. She wasn't wearing armor today, just a long robe of shimmering fabric that moved like liquid under the light. Aiden slowed down, unsure. She turned to him, and for the first time, she looked almost gentle. "This is your second test," she said. "No pain this time." Aiden raised an eyebrow. "That's a first." She gestured to the table. "Sit." He hesitated, then did as she said. As soon as he sat down, a ring of light surrounded his head. His memory started to flash before his eyes, fast and chaotic. Battlefields, old friends, screams, laughter, heartbreak. He gasped, trying to move, but his body wouldn't respond. "What are you doing to me?" he shouted. "Watching," she answered calmly. "Feeling what you feel." Valera placed her hand on a glowing crystal, and her eyes flickered. She was inside his mind. Walking through his memories, she saw him as a child, climbing trees. She saw him holding his dying brother in a war. She saw him laugh, cry, bleed, and love. Her lips parted slightly, and for a moment, she seemed human. When the machine stopped, both of them were quiet. Valera looked at him like she was seeing him for the first time. "You feel so much," she whispered. "More than we do." Aiden breathed heavily, still shaking. "You don't get to play with my mind just because I'm small," he said. She stepped closer, her voice low. "You are not small inside." The door opened again, and another alien, tall and red-skinned, entered with a long staff. He looked at Aiden with disgust. "Why are you wasting time with him?" the alien asked the queen. "He's just a human." Valera didn't answer. She looked at Aiden and said, "This is your third test." Before Aiden could react, the red-skinned alien swung the staff. It missed his head by an inch. Aiden rolled off the table and dodged another blow. He wasn't given a weapon, not even armor. It was survival. Again, he blocked with his arm, took the hit, and grabbed the staff. Using the alien's own strength against him, he flipped the attacker and landed a knee to the chest. The alien growled and tried to stand, but Aiden pointed the staff at his throat. He didn't strike, he waited. He showed mercy. The red alien stood slowly, eyes burning with humiliation. He left without a word. Valera walked to Aiden and took the staff from his hands. "You fight like fire," she said, "but your heart is water." Aiden sat down again, breathing hard. "Still not big enough for your species?" he asked with a tired smile. Valera paused, then gave the smallest smile he'd seen from her. "Big enough to make me curious." That night, back in his cell, Aiden found something strange. The food tray didn't come. Instead, the wall slid open again, revealing a larger room connected to his own. Inside was a bed, a table, clean clothes, and food that smelled good. He stepped in slowly, like it was a trap, but it wasn't. The lights turned warm, and the air smelled like a distant forest. It wasn't a prison anymore. It was a test, or maybe something else entirely. Later that night, as he sat eating, he heard a soft voice through a hidden speaker. It was Valera. "I don't understand you." "Aiden Stone," she said. "But I want to." Aiden looked around, unsure where the voice came from. He whispered back, "Then stop testing me." The silence lasted a long time. Then she answered, "Soon." The deal. Aiden woke up in the upgraded room. It still wasn't Earth, but it no longer felt like a cage. He had a bed, warm lights, and food that didn't taste like cardboard. But comfort didn't mean safety. He knew better than to relax in enemy territory. The door opened without warning. 2 guards entered, followed by Queen Valera. She wore a long dark cloak this time, more elegant than her armor. She looked around the room like she was inspecting a strange animal in a new habitat. "Come with me," she said simply. Aiden didn't argue. He followed her down a hallway he hadn't seen before. It opened into a massive room. Part war chamber, part science lab. Glowing maps floated in the air, showing star systems, fleets, and blinking red zones. In the center stood a large circular table, surrounded by her advisors, all tall, all powerful looking, all silent when she entered. Valera pointed at a large red dot flashing on the edge of the map. "This is the Zarnak fleet," she said. "They are coming." Aiden stepped closer, watching the map spin slowly. "Let me guess," he said. "You're losing." One of the alien generals growled. "How dare you?" Valera raised her hand, and the room fell silent again. She didn't look angry. She looked tired. "We outnumber them, but they adapt faster than we do," she said. "They change tactics, they break rules." She turned toward Aiden. "Like your kind." Aiden blinked. "You want me to fight your war?" "I want you to help us think," Valera replied. "You are not a soldier now. You are a strategist," he laughed. "I'm not a general. I'm a stubborn ex-soldier with trust issues." "Perfect," she said calmly. "You think outside the pattern." Aiden stared at her for a long moment, then crossed his arms. "What do I get in return?" The room went quiet again, as if no one had ever dared negotiate with their queen. But Valera didn't look offended. "If you help me win this war," she said, "you will be free." Aiden raised an eyebrow. "And if I don't?" "You'll still be free," she said, "but others will die." That last line stayed in the air like smoke, heavy, quiet, dangerous. Aiden nodded slowly. "All right," he said. "Let's make a deal." For the next few days, Aiden studied battle logs, flight patterns, and enemy strategies. Alien generals watched him like he was a wild animal with a pencil. But he didn't care. He paced the war room, drew on glowing boards, and rewrote old plans. He changed their formations, reversed their attack paths, and added traps where no one expected. "Humans don't win because we're stronger," he told them. "We win because we cheat smart." Valera watched in silence, never interrupting. But sometimes, just sometimes, she smiled. One night, after a long session, she walked beside him down the corridor. "You surprise me, Aiden." "Stone," she said. He looked up at her. "Still not big enough for your species?" Valera stopped walking and turned toward him. She studied his face, not with judgment, but curiosity. "Your size doesn't matter as much as your mind," she said. "And your heart." Aiden chuckled. "Careful, Queen, you're starting to sound human." She didn't laugh, but she didn't deny it either. The next morning, Aiden and Valera stood together in a command ship above a planet. It was time to test the new plan, one designed by a human mind. Their ships moved in. New formations, silent and fast. The enemy didn't see it coming. Within hours, the Zarnak fleet was in chaos. Their patterns broke, their shields failed, and their leader escaped in panic. Cheers erupted through the alien war network. For the first time, the Queen's forces had the upper hand. Aiden stood at the viewing screen, arms crossed. "I told you," he said. "Sometimes the best weapon is surprise." Valera stood beside him, close now, closer than ever. "You changed everything," she whispered. He looked at her, eyes serious. "No," he said. "You just gave me the chance." That night, Valera entered his room again. No guards, no orders, no tests, just silence. And something else, something unspoken. She sat across from him and said, "My people don't understand you, Aiden Stone." He leaned forward. "Do you?" She hesitated, then said softly, "I'm starting to." Their eyes met. Not as prisoner and queen, not as soldier and ruler, but as two warriors from different worlds, both carrying pain, both searching for something real. Outside the ship, the stars moved slowly, but inside that room, something had already changed. Forever. The Sparket had been 7 days since the battle Aiden helped win. 7 days since the Zarnak fled in shame. 7 days since Queen Valera started looking at him like he wasn't just a human, but something more. Aiden had become more than a guest, more than a test subject. He was now a trusted voice in her war room. Advisors listened, maps changed, And Valera asked for his opinion in front of everyone. Some aliens respected him, others hated him. One in particular couldn't hide it anymore. His name was General Threx, tall even by their standards, powerful and proud. He had served Valera for years. He had also wanted to mate with her for just as long. When he saw the way she looked at Aiden, his jaw clenched. To him, Aiden was a small, fragile outsider. To him, this was an insult. One evening, Valera invited Aiden to the planet's surface, a quiet lake beneath twin moons, her personal escape from war. She walked beside him without armor, her cloak flowing behind her. They didn't speak at first. Just listen to the wind. Finally, she said, "We used to believe humans were simple." Aiden laughed softly. "We still are. We just hide it better." She turned to him, her voice softer than before. "When I entered your memories, I saw more than pain. I saw love, loyalty, sacrifice." Aiden looked away, his voice low. "Memories are tricky. They look beautiful, but sometimes they hurt the most." Valera stepped closer. "You hide it well," she said. "But I see it, the cracks, the fire." Aiden looked up at her. They were only inches apart now. "You're not what I expected either," he said. "For a queen who started by mocking my size," Valera smirked, "I've learned size is not the same as strength." There was silence, but not empty. It was full of electricity, and in that moment, they both knew something was changing. The silence broke when a deep voice echoed through the trees. "A queen should not lower herself for a pet." It was General Threx, stepping out from the shadows. His eyes locked on Aiden like a blade ready to strike. Valera's face went cold. "This is not your concern, Threx. It is if the honor of our species is at stake," he said. He threw a metal staff between them. "If he wants your respect, let him earn it." Aiden looked at the staff, then at Valera. He knew exactly what this was, a challenge. A duel, not for blood, but for dignity. Valera whispered, "You don't have to do this." Aiden picked up the staff, spinning it once. "Yeah," he said, "but I kinda want to." The duel was held in the arena at sunrise. Aliens filled the stands, whispers echoing across the metal walls. A human challenging a royal warrior. It had never happened before. Threx entered in full armor, his muscles tense. Aiden wore only light gear, fast and flexible. He didn't have strength, but he had something else. Cleverness, speed, stubbornness. The gong sounded. Threx charged like a beast. Aiden dodged, rolled, used his size to slip under blows. He struck at joints, at pressure points, making Threx angry. The crowd was silent, watching every movement. This wasn't just a fight, it was a message. Threx roared and knocked Aiden to the ground. The staff flew from his hand. Aiden coughed, blood on his lip. But he smiled. "You hit like a cargo ship." He grabbed dirt from the arena floor and threw it in Threx's eyes. The alien stumbled. Blinded, Aiden rushed, jumped, wrapped his arm around Threx's neck, and twisted. Not to kill, just to stop. Threx collapsed, growling, defeated. Aiden stood, panting, the crowd still quiet. Then someone clapped. Then more. Then cheers filled the air. Valera stood from her seat. Her eyes locked on his. She didn't smile, but her chest rose with a deep breath. Pride, not just for the win, but for how he won, later. As he cleaned the wounds on his face, Valera entered his chamber. No guards, no rank, just her. "You didn't kill him," she said. "I didn't need to," Aiden replied. "I just needed to prove I'm not weak." Valera stepped closer. "You proved more than that," she whispered. "You showed mercy, intelligence, control." She reached out and touched his cheek. It was the first time she touched him without gloves, without barriers. Aiden didn't move away. "I'm not afraid of you anymore," he said. "I never wanted you to fear me." She replied. There was silence again, but this time it was different. Not cold, not tense, warm, and filled with something real. And though neither said it out loud, the spark between them had finally caught fire. The arena was still quiet when Aiden walked out alone. No music, no speech, no ceremony. But everyone had seen it. The impossible. A human had defeated one of their greatest warriors. Not with strength, but with heart and mind, Valera stood in the upper balcony, her eyes never leaving him. Her people cheered his name now, but their whispers had changed, no longer calling him pet, prisoner, or experiment. Now they said a new word, equal. But with that new word came danger. Some hated it, some feared it. And one of them planned to stop it. That night, Queen Valera stood before her council. The grand chamber was filled with her top commanders. Scientists, judges, and elders. Every eye was on her, every heart unsure. "I've made my decision," she said, her voice strong. "The human, Aiden Stone, will remain under my protection." An elder stepped forward, tall and sharp-eyed. "You protect him as a guest," he said, "or something more?" Valera didn't flinch. "I protect him as a warrior," she answered. "And as a man I trust," the room murmured. Trust they could accept, but feelings were harder to swallow. "He is changing you," one general said coldly. Valera met his gaze. "Good," she replied. "Change is what we need." Aiden, meanwhile, stood on the outer deck of the ship, looking out at the stars. He didn't belong here, not fully, not yet, but something inside him had shifted. This war, this world, and most of all, her. He heard the door behind him open. He didn't turn. "I heard your council meeting didn't go smoothly," he said. Valera stood beside him, arms folded. "They don't understand, do you?" Aiden asked softly. She didn't speak for a moment. Then she said, "I understand what I feel when I look at you. And I understand what I fear." Aiden turned to face her. "I'm not asking to be your king, Valera," he said. "I'm asking if I matter to you." She stepped closer. "You do," she said. "But if I choose you, I might lose everything." He smiled sadly. "If you don't, you might lose something bigger." Valera looked into his eyes, and for once, she had no words. Suddenly, alarms echoed through the ship, red lights flashed, and a voice announced an incoming attack. But it wasn't the Zarnak. It was their own ships, loyalists who had turned against Valera. The rebels believed she had grown weak, too close to the human, too far from tradition. And now they were here to take her crown and his life. She turned to him. "This is what I feared," she said. "That loving you would bring war to my door." Aiden grabbed a weapon from the wall. "Then let's fight them together." They moved through the ship side by side, fighting through corridors lit by smoke and fire. She moved like lightning, elegant and deadly. He moved like instinct, fast and unpredictable. Together, they were chaos. The rebels underestimated him again, and again, they fell. Valera cut through their captain and stood tall, her blade red with light. She looked at Aiden, chest rising, sweat on her skin. "You don't stop," she said. He smiled. "Neither do you." But just as they began to breathe, a hidden door opened behind them. A small alien, one of her former advisors, stepped out, holding a pulse grenade. He threw it at Aiden. Valera didn't think. She moved in front of him. The blast hit her full in the chest. She collapsed. Aiden screamed, catching her before she hit the floor. Her body was still breathing, but weak. The blast had drained her energy field. "Why?" he asked her, voice shaking. "Why would you do that?" Her hand touched his cheek, trembling. "Because I made my choice," she whispered. "I choose you." And then, her eyes closed. Valera was rushed into healing chambers. Aiden sat outside, fists clenched, eyes burning. He had survived so many wars, but this time, his heart was on the battlefield. Hours passed. Finally, the healer stepped out. "She lives," he said, "but barely." Aiden walked into the room. She lay in silence, her body glowing faintly under the healing lights. He sat beside her, took her hand gently. "No more tests," he whispered. "No more doubt." He leaned down and kissed her forehead. "I'm yours, if you'll have me." Outside, the rebellion was over. Her loyal forces had crushed the attackers, and her people had seen something they never expected. A queen who had nearly died to protect a human. and a human who had stood beside her, not for power, but for love. The war. The sky above the capital burned red. The stars were disappearing. One by one, not because the night was falling, but because the Zarnak fleet had arrived. They didn't send a message. They didn't make demands. They came to destroy, this time, completely. Aiden stood on the command deck. His hands tightened into fists as he stared at the enemy ships forming a black wall in the sky. Thousands of them, larger than anything he had seen before. They weren't just attacking, they were ending a war. Behind him, Queen Valera entered slowly, still healing, still bruised from saving his life. But her eyes burned brighter than ever. "You should be resting," Aiden said, without turning. "I don't rest when my world is at risk," she replied. He looked at her. "You're still weak." She stepped beside him. "I have you," she said. "That makes me stronger." The War Council gathered quickly. Maps lit up, alarms blared, commands flew from every screen. Aiden pointed at the enemy formation. "They're doing something new," he said. "They're surrounding us slowly, not charging." Valera frowned. "They've learned from us." Aiden nodded. "Then it's time we use the thing they can't learn." "What's that?" she asked. He looked her in the eyes. "Human madness." Aiden's plan was simple and insane. He would lead a small fleet through a hidden meteor belt to strike at the Zarnak command ship. It was suicide, but if they destroyed the brain, the body might collapse. Valera stood before her people. "My crown does not matter if we all fall," she said. "This is our last stand. Fight not for me," she added, "but for your children, your sky, your soul." The army roared. Not for blood, but for survival. The battle began like thunder. Zarnak ships rained fire across the planet. Explosions painted the sky in gold and crimson. Alien machines tore through cities. Warriors clashed on every surface, and in the middle of it all flew a small, fast ship, Aiden's ship. Inside, Aiden gripped the controls, heart pounding. Beside him, a co-pilot, one of Valera's elite. Behind him, silence. The kind of silence before the crash. They entered the meteor field. Rocks the size of buildings rushed past. One wrong move, they'd be dust. "Are we even sure the command ship is in there?" the co-pilot asked. "No," Aiden replied. "But if we don't try, we're already dead." Back on the planet, Valera fought on foot. She moved like wind and flame, her sword a blur. But even she was slowing. The wounds, the pain, the pressure. They were breaking through. Then she heard it, the Zarnak leader's voice on every screen. "You protected the human," he said, "and now you will watch your world fall." Her people looked at her, fear in their eyes. She raised her blade and shouted, "Do not look at me. Look at the fire we still carry. We burn, yes, but we burn together." Inside the meteor storm, Aiden's ship was hit. Fire exploded. From the side, they spiraled, barely holding control. The co-pilot screamed. Aiden took the manual override. Through the smoke and shaking glass, he saw it. The Zarnak command ship, sitting in the eye of the storm. "This is it," he whispered. "Tell Valera." "I kept my promise." He slammed the ship forward, engines screaming. The ship broke through the final wall of debris. Alarms blared, everything shook. And then, silence, light, explosion. Back on the planet, every Zarnak unit suddenly stopped. Like puppets with no strings, their systems failed, their weapons dropped, and the skies began to clear. The command ship was gone. Aiden's stone had crashed straight into it and saved the world. Valera dropped to her knees. Not from pain, but from loss. Her chest ached like it had never ached before. He had kept his word. He had given everything. She closed her eyes, her voice soft. "You foolish, beautiful human." But fate had one last twist. Hours later, a beacon was found floating near the wreckage. Inside it, a survival pod, barely intact, cracked, burning. And inside the pod, Aiden, alive, barely breathing. But alive. When he opened his eyes, he saw her face, tears down her cheeks, her hand gripping his. "You came back," she whispered. "I told you. he said, weak but smiling. I'm yours, and this time she didn't hold back. She kissed him like the war had ended, and a new world had begun. The Bond of War was over. The skies were clear again. Zarnek's ships had fallen like dead stars, their threat erased from the stars they once claimed. But for Aiden, victory felt. Quiet, he sat beneath the twin moons, a healing scar across his cheek. His body ached, his chest was heavy, not with wounds, but with everything he had seen, felt, and lost. Behind him, footsteps. Soft, slow, deliberate. Queen Valera walked toward him, but something in her had changed. She wasn't wearing her crown, she wasn't wearing her armor, just a simple robe. And eyes that no longer belonged to a ruler, but to a woman who had made a choice. You never told me what you saw in that vision, Aiden said, without turning. Valera sat beside him, her voice barely above a whisper. I saw a child, she said, half human, half us. Aiden blinked, surprised. Is that possible? She looked at him. It wasn't until I met you. Silence filled the space between them. But this time, it was not heavy, it was peaceful. I never wanted to belong here, Aiden admitted. I just wanted to survive. Valera reached for his hand. And now? She asked. He looked at her. Now I want to stay, he said. Not because I have to, but because I choose to. The next day, the Great Circle was called, a gathering of all clans, leaders, and elders from across her empire. They came expecting tradition, protocol, and the restoration of the old ways. Instead, they saw a queen walk in hand with a human. Gasps echoed through the chamber, not of anger, but of disbelief. Valera stood before her people. No armor, no crown, just truth. I once ruled by bloodline, she said. Now I rule by bond. She looked at Aiden, then at the crowd. He stood with us, bled with us, saved us. And in doing so, he changed me. Some in the crowd turned away, unwilling to accept the change, but others, many others, bowed their heads in respect. The world was no longer what it was, and maybe that was a good thing. That night a ceremony was held, not royal, not religious. Something new, something ancient, something shared. Aiden stood before her under the moonlight. He wore a robe given to warriors who were no longer outsiders. Valera held a glowing ring made of star metal, forged from the wreckage of his escape pod. She placed it around his wrist, not as a collar, but as a vow. You are not mine because I own you, she said. You are mine because you stood when others ran, because you stayed when others feared. Aiden took her hand. And you are mine, he replied, because you saw past what I was and helped me become something more. Months passed. The planet healed, so did the people. New statues were built, not of warriors with swords raised, but of two figures standing side by side, one tall and glowing, the other smaller in frame but taller in spirit. Children learned the story not just of war, but of unity, of two species that once saw only differences, but found power in love. Aiden stood at the edge of a garden, holding a small child in his arms, half human, half alien, her eyes glowing faint purple, her smile stubborn and wide. Valera walked beside them, a true queen now, not because she ruled a people, but because she led with something stronger than fear, hope. The child giggled, reaching up to touch the stars. Aiden looked at Valera and sighed. She's going to be taller than both of us, Valera smirked. Let's hope she takes your heart. Aiden kissed her forehead. And your fire. And as the night covered the planet in starlight, their bond remained, unbroken, not built by blood, not bound by tradition, but made stronger by every test, every scar, and every choice. A queen, a human, a new beginning, together, always.